while since I've made a video, but hey, new year, new me. I am wanting to start uploading again and more this year, and I figured why not review my new camera to kind of start off the new year. Well, it's not really that new, I guess. I've had it for about 6 months, but I felt like now is probably a good time because I have a really good understanding of it. Before I get started, I did want to mention that this entire video is being recorded on the X-E4, so you can kind of get some of the video capabilities from that. In this video, I'm going to go over the pros and cons that I feel about this camera, as well as who this camera is actually for. For those of you that have watched my previous videos, you know that the number one pro for me in any camera is going to be size. I love having a small camera. It gives me the ability to bring it with me literally anywhere. If that's going to be a sporting event, a concert, literally wherever, I want to be able to bring my camera to be able to get the best quality images possible. And the X-E4 is perfect for that. It's super small. It's even smaller than the X100V, and it's extremely lightweight, which can be a pro and a con. So when it comes to the X100V specifically versus the X-E4, to me, the X100V feels much more premium. When I unboxed the X-E4 originally, I kind of took it out of the box and I was like, whoa, this thing's like super light and it almost felt like a toy. And then I have the Fuji 15-45 on it right now, which is also a very plasticky lens, pretty cheap. If you just use that as a combo, it's an extremely light camera and kind of can feel cheap. I've gotten a lot more used to it over time, but coming from the X100V, it was kind of more of a downgrade almost. The next pro is having interchangeable lenses. Like I mentioned, having come from the X100V and prior to that, the X100S, I have not had a camera with interchangeable lenses besides my film camera in quite some time. So it's definitely a pro. It's fun to use different lenses, and I've really enjoyed actually shooting with different focal lengths. And you can kind of go wherever you want with lenses. Like I mentioned, I'm shooting this with the Fuji 15-45 millimeter. I also just recently actually bought the Fuji 35 f1.4, and this lens is crazy good. And then I've actually also been adapting my Canon film lenses onto it, and so I have 2 different adapters for this, and I'll link them down below. So the next pros are probably going to be the same pros that everybody kind of talks about, which is the X-Trans 4 sensor, Fuji colors, film simulations, the good autofocus, and just everything that comes with Fuji cameras in general. And lastly, the X-E4 is extremely customizable. Whether you want to go with third-party or Fuji branded accessories, there are an abundance of them. There is so much that you can do externally as well as internally by customizing the buttons, and anybody that has used Fuji systems previously knows this, but I just kind of wanted to reiterate those things. So now I'm going to get a little bit more into the cons, and honestly there are some pretty bad ones, but I wanted to go over some of the lighter ones first. So there definitely are not enough buttons on this camera, and it makes the ergonomics a little bit weird. So when it comes to something like the X100V, which right here, so I really have not had any problems with ergonomics or buttons or anything with the X100V. Even simple things on the X-E4 that weren't included, kind of like the being able to change focusing modes, just having something simple like that, having the ISO kind of dual with the shutter dial, since it kind of like, I don't know, it pulls up like that. If you've never seen that before, hopefully this is focusing. It'll be a good test of the video focusing with this lens and body, I guess. But not being able to use the ISO in that way just makes it so that you have to go into the menus that many more times, which can be annoying. There's just kind of a little bit of a learning curve. But once you program all of the buttons to do the things that you want it to do, it can kind of become second nature. But right away, it definitely threw me off a bit. Also, when it comes to comparing these, and sorry, I'm going to compare them quite a bit because they are very similar, but with the EVF/OVF on this versus just having the EVF on the X-E4, I've noticed that the EVF is actually worse quality than on the X100V. It's just like not nearly as clear. I don't know if they're built the same way. I highly doubt it since this has the optical as well, but that's just something to take into consideration. It's still a massive upgrade from something like the X100S, but if you're wanting, the best of the best, I want you to be aware of this. For me personally, I don't use the EVF all the time. It is something that I definitely noticed, but I tend to actually just look at the screen at this point, and that's why I bought the X-E4 to begin with, because I just realized with the X100V prior to bricking it, I wasn't pulling it up to my eye. I was just looking at the screen and that was it. And so speaking of the screen actually, so with the X-E4, you're able to pull it up into like selfie mode so I can see myself directly above the lens. And that's great. I kind of like it actually, especially with the 15-45. If I want to go out with Monique or friends or something and I want to take a selfie, sure, I can do that on this. It'd be good for vlogging if you have, again, like this lens has image stabilization built into the lens since the body doesn't have it. But going back to the screen is very clunky. It's not smooth coming up at all. I feel like I'm gonna break it half the time when I'm pulling it out. It's entirely made out of metal and I highly doubt anything would happen, but it's just not nearly as smooth as other cameras that I've used that have flipping screens. Another thing is it seems like the batteries die a little bit quicker with this camera. Maybe it's just me. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not somebody that's using this camera as a workhorse. I typically take a photo here, a photo there, turn the camera off, photo here, photo there. I just find that with this camera specifically, the batteries die a lot faster. And so speaking of the batteries, this is kind of one of the big issues that I've had with the camera. If you're unfamiliar with how Fujifilm is doing things now, they want you to do all of your charging with the battery inside of the body of the camera. And so then you plug the body of the camera into the wall with a cable. My battery is no longer charging in body. I have no idea why. This happened about 3 months after I bought the camera. And so I contacted Fujifilm and asked them, hey, like this is what's happening. I'm plugging it into the wall. It is registering that something's plugged into it. Even the light turns on saying that it's charging, but the battery doesn't actually charge. And so then their response was, you're gonna have to send it out. Something is probably like disconnected or whatever, and we'll have to make a repair on it. Well, time is money, like I don't have any other digital cameras at this point. This is the only one that I have, and yeah, I have this one, but it entirely does not work. I don't want to send it out, so my workaround for that, since they don't provide an external charger, was to just buy an external charger, and then I can actually do 2 batteries at once, and it has like this little screen on it so that you can see if it's charging or like what percentage, not percentage, but like if it's at halfway or 3/4, whatever. So that's been my workaround. But that's super annoying. I have to buy something separate for something that should be working, especially after only 3 months. So that's a big one. And lastly, I don't know if this is a factory defect or what the problem is with this, but on the bottom of my camera, it is unbelievably scratched up, paint chips, and it just seems like the adhesive isn't working the way that it does on other cameras. You can take a look at my X100V, which I had for even longer than I've had the X-E4, and then look at this comparison. I'm going to have to include some iPhone footage or something. But it's pretty bad. And it's not like I was rubbing metal on metal or anything crazy. It was actually metal on rubber with a Gorilla Pod, and it like really chipped away at it. And now every time I pick the camera up, I'll have little black paint chips on my hand. So I don't know if this is maybe a factory defect with certain serial numbers. I haven't seen any other reviews talking about this, but to me, it would just make me not want to buy the black bodied one. If this is the quality that Fuji's going for, I would definitely opt for the silver one if I were to purchase this camera again. But yeah, I'm really not sure what happened there, but it looks pretty bad. I know it's like it's a small thing. It's paint chipping, but if I'm spending, X amount of dollars for something, I would expect it to have better quality than this. All right, so after all of this, I guess, who is this camera for? So like the title of the video says, I think that this camera can be the ultimate starter camera for somebody new to photography. This camera makes you want to go out and shoot. Let's say that you don't know how to shoot in manual mode, or you're just really wanting to have a small camera to bring with you everywhere. Even you're a professional photographer. Let's say you have an X-T4 or whatever, and you just want something smaller to be able to bring with you every day. This is perfect. I promise you, this is pretty much as good as it can get for size, and then, quality, I guess, having the X-Trans4 sensor in it. You have such a wide range of lens choices. You can go super cheap, like I have with this 15 to 45. I got it used on eBay. Or you can go more expensive, like with the 35-1.4, which fantastic lens. And then you can also have, film lenses, and you can go as expensive or as cheap as you want with those. Maybe you have some already, and these adapters are relatively affordable. So that's a whole other option. I pushed off for so long to buy this 35 f1.4. I got it as like a Christmas present to myself. And for the longest time, from August to January, basically, because I got it after Christmas, I was using the 15 to 45 and then film lenses for all of my photography. And, there is a struggle there sometimes. Manually focusing isn't the easiest thing in the world, but it can be a lot of fun. It can be rewarding when you get like a really good photo and manually focusing and all that stuff. You do get that film experience if that's something that you're wanting. It can be really fun. So who is this camera not for, I guess? And my answer for the X-E4 specifically is somebody that wants a video workhorse of a camera. Definitely don't recommend this. Fuji has much better options for video in their lineup. I think not having in-body stabilization is, kind of important for video. It's not that important for myself and what I'm doing, and that's why I love this camera. And, me bashing on it for all these other reasons doesn't take away from the fact that I bring it with me everywhere and it's constantly with me. But I do think that there's much better options for video if that's what you're wanting to specifically do. It does have very capable video. I'm shooting 4K at 24 right now, and I've been going for 21 minutes, no issues, no overheating. It's perfectly fine for this. So, take that with what you want and make an informed decision from there. If you like this video, it really helps the channel. And if you want, you can go ahead and follow me over on Instagram or Twitter at Holtzy. And then if you really want, you can follow me on TikTok at Michael Holtz. And one thing I did want to mention is I do have my first preset pack available on my website. This is the first time I've made kind of a complete pack. I've sold individual presets before, and thank you to anybody that has purchased those. But yeah, it's been really cool to see that you guys are using them and stuff like that. So if you're interested, I just recently posted those. If you use the code 5OFF, it will give you $5 off through the rest of January. So keep that in mind if you were considering purchasing. And thank you in advance to anybody that does purchase. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for watching this video and for listening to me talk about the Fujifilm X-E4. I hope that you learned a little bit about the camera and can make a more informed decision on your purchase of a new camera.